Hi and welcome to another video. XP Deus, how do we set it up for a quiet site? Well, we all know how to set it up on a busy site. There's lots of videos about that, but what about a quiet site where there's not a lot going on? Join me over in the Skills School. I've been told by a few friends that this site is really quiet, but they're sure it holds some good finds. So how do we get the Deus to rock and roll on a quiet site? The program I'm going to use is Hot Program number 9. And the reason I'm doing this is because program number 9 uses a -6.4 discrimination. -6.4 is wide open. It gives you an open window to the soil conditions, the iron conditions, and of course the non-ferrous targets. So program number 9, wide open. Let's have a go out in the field, see what feedback we get, and then make the necessary adjustments. And there's a little adjustment I'm convinced is going to work, but I'll show you that out in the field. This is a standard hot program, no adjustments made, 90 sensitivity. Quiet, isn't it? Very little feedback from the ground, very little feedback from iron. So the object of this exercise is to try and get the Deus on its toes, so to speak. We need to introduce a little bit of life. First of all, I'm going to raise the sensitivity from 90 to 95, and let's see what happens there. Sensitivity 95. It's made it a little bit more intense, but I'm getting a lot of false signals. Little spikes coming through. I don't think the sensitivity is the right adjustment to make. Ground conditions here are really wet. I think the key adjustment on this field is reactivity. Most of the time I use reactivity at 3 and I never touch it because I tend to search sites which have got quite a lot of iron in them. But this site is really quiet, so iron isn't a problem. Let's adjust the reactivity down and see what sort of feedback we get off the soil. I'm going to start off by lowering it from 3 to 2.5. Let's have a listen and see what happens. So let's go back to sensitivity 90. Reactivity 2.5. Now we're starting to get that ground feedback, but we're getting no false signals, or very few false signals. That's perfect. We're getting the Deus to rock and roll a little bit now. I think going down to reactivity 2 is going to make an even bigger difference. So let's try reactivity 2. Here we go, reactivity 2. It's almost like a threshold in the background, isn't it? And that's telling me the Deus is getting all the information from the ground and it's on its toes, it's working as it should do. Just to remind you again what reactivity 3 sounds like on this field. Really quiet. I'm going to just go back and adjust it to reactivity 2 and let you hear it. Here we go. Instantly a difference. I'm getting that feedback coming through now. Voila! The Deus is rock and rolling. Once you know that the Deus is on its limit, then you can make further adjustments. For example, if you didn't want to hear the ground feedback, all you have to do is turn a discrimination from -6.4 up to about -2, and that eliminates most ground. If you didn't want to hear the iron, all you have to do is turn a discrimination from -6.4 to about +5, and that deals with most iron. You need to find your preferred adjustment along that discrimination range. There's other adjustments you can make. Sure, you can lower the ground balance, but because we've had weeks and weeks of rain and the ground is really wet, I don't think adjusting the ground balance is going to help. It's going to introduce false signals because the water table is very, very high. Perhaps drop it a couple of notches. I tend to use between 88 and 90 on most conditions, and that'll be perfect. But if you start going lower than that, then you're going to start getting some really strange signals. So the ground balance is really not an option in the wet conditions. Sensitivity introduces too many false signals. That's the easy bit. I've got the Deus set up for the field. The hard bit now is getting out there and finding something. So I hope that's given you a little insight into the reactivity. It makes the signals a little bit wider, so you've got to get used to that. But on a quiet field, it's a really, really good adjustment. Okay, I'm getting out into the field. I'm going to leave you now. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next Skill School video.